it is, January 15th, 2016. So here's something I don't think I've ever seen before. A sequel to a movie announced 2 months before it comes out. I think this is a really cool idea. So 10 Cloverfield Lane, previously known as Venetia, and I think it had even another title. There were a couple of actors that people knew were working on something, but they didn't know what exactly it was, and it was under this this code name. But all the way up, and a lot of movies are made that way, especially when they're based on big major properties that studios don't want people to know about prematurely. They'll be known under some kind of a code name. But this one was known under a code name all the way up until this week, and it's kind of neat that the Cloverfield sequel is doing this, since that movie was marketed in such a cryptic way in the first place, and it was it was sold a lot on viral marketing. Nobody really knew exactly what they were getting themselves into with it, but it had these intriguing images, and people were just really curious about it, and so it ended up being a sleeper hit. I think a lot of that had to do with the way it was advertised, and it's kind of neat that this is following suit, but doing it in even a different sort of way, not even letting people know about it until right before it comes out. And it's coming out March 11th, which is 2 weeks before Batman vs. Superman. And I think that's really smart, too, of course. You don't want it to get buried by what will be one of the biggest movies of the year, but putting it out 2 weeks before that, it's probably going to generate, I would assume, the majority of its dollars in those first couple weeks. So you're probably pretty safe putting it there, and March is usually not a real big month. Of course, it's going to be this year because that's where Batman vs. Superman is going to be, and you could have put that movie kind of any place. So I think all of this is kind of neat marketing. It's directed by a guy named David Trachtenberg, who I had never heard of before, and looked him up, and it turns out that he hasn't directed a big budget Hollywood movie yet. Well, he has now, but he hadn't directed anything before this, and he was the guy who made a pretty successful and well-received Portal fan film that got Hollywood's attention, and then he was hired to direct this movie. And I've been talking a lot lately about how fascinating it is to see people making fan films and catching the attention of studios, and how we're blurring the lines between professionally made and independently made movies. And that is becoming more and more a viable outlet for people to get noticed. And so when I see things like the lawsuit that just happened with Paramount and Star Trek, I get kind of nervous, even though it turns out, and I guess I'll mention this now, it turns out that I was wrong about that, and that Paramount, as far as I can tell, had every reason to sue Axanar. I hate that, because I was really excited about Axanar, but it turns out that the producers making that went a little bit too far, maybe a lot too far, and a lot of that, remember I said that they generated $1 million through crowdfunding, and it turns out that they were taking a lot of that money and opening a studio that they were then planning on using to make for-profit movies, their own original things. And so that is directly making money off of Star Trek, and Paramount had much more of a reason to go after them than any other fan films. So I talked about the scary precedent that would set. I don't think we're in any danger of that now. They're not going after any other fan films. Paramount's not like people can't make Star Trek fan films. It doesn't sound like you just can't directly compete with them like that, and that's kind of what it seems like the Axanar folks were doing. So anyway, it looks like fan films more or less are still kind of a place that you can use as a proving ground, where you can sell yourself, you just can't make money off of the thing that you're making. The trailer is sufficiently cryptic and strange, and I feel like I know a lot more about this movie than I did about Cloverfield, but what I don't know is how exactly it connects to Cloverfield. Looking at the synopsis on Wikipedia, it says that John Goodman's character, who, if you've seen the trailer, and John Goodman, is I'm excited just that John Goodman's in this, but John Goodman's kid, because he can be really creepy, and I think that's a great choice for the role that he's playing. That he has kidnapped, or it seems to have kidnapped this girl, and then there's a guy there too. But according to the Wikipedia page, it's much more about this girl, and it says that she's in a car crash, and he rescues her and then kidnaps her, sort of like a misery situation, and claims that it's for her own good, and that if she goes back out into the world, she'll die because there's been some kind of a chemical spill or attack or something that has wiped out humanity and made it impossible to live outside. And I'm wondering if he's lying and he's really talking about the Cloverfield monster, or if this is only like peripherally sort of related to the events of Cloverfield. And the way J.J. Abrams has talked about it, it's like it's related, but maybe not like a direct sequel. So it'll be really interesting to see how exactly those two movies go together. And this doesn't appear to be a found footage movie, which might entice more people, because I think a lot of people's irritation with Cloverfield, and I'm one of the folks that actually kind of likes Cloverfield, and I sometimes feel like I'm going to get attacked when I say that, because I know a lot of people that really don't like that movie, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. And yeah, it's got a lot of problems with its found footage conceit, and there are definitely shots and sometimes major shots where the camera's moving, and I don't see how a person could possibly be doing what they're doing and hold that camera. But it's always really tough to make that believable 100%. I talked about that a lot when I reviewed Chronicle recently. But yeah, this looks a lot more like a bona fide horror film. It looks like like kind of a claustrophobic survival thriller. I'm interested to see just how much of the action takes place inside that bunker. It was a really unsettling and unnerving trailer, and I gotta say that it's like I said, it's smart to wait until right now and say, hey, it's a Cloverfield thing. And the name and that kind of unusual way of selling it will, I'm sure, sell it. But I gotta say, if I just saw this trailer under some other name in a theater, I might be sort of enticed by John Goodman, but I don't think I'd go to the theater to see it. It's one of those movies that I would wait. And part of that's just because this isn't exactly my genre, but these kinds of movies seem to be sort of a dime a dozen. I feel like I've seen a lot of trailers for movies that sort of look like this. It's certainly more enticing than a lot of them. It doesn't look as generic as a lot of these sorts of claustrophobic horror films, but I'd probably wait and see what people said about it before I rush out to see it, even though it's got an actor in it that I like a lot. But then I'm just too curious with the word Cloverfield in it that I kind of have to go and I have to know. So that's kind of neat, and I feel like it's just really smart marketing. I think that a lot of people will have that, where if they had just seen this trailer, they wouldn't rush out and see it. And a lot of people, I'm sure, will wait for a video anyway. But I think this is the only way, well, maybe not the only way, but doing something unconventional like this, waiting this long before the sequel comes out, not announcing it until 2 months before it comes out, suddenly having a couple of heavy hitter actors in it. I think that it's it's likely to do pretty well for what it is and for what I'm assuming is not a big giant budget. But if it touted itself up real hard as the sequel to Cloverfield, everybody loved Cloverfield, right? Like the Paranormal Activity movies, when that was a sleeper hit, and then they just kept churning out sequel after sequel after sequel. I think this is going to look, a lot classier to people, and it's going to be more inviting. And I like how cryptic and odd and unsettling it is. And you just gotta know. I hope that, because I'm assuming that this is going to be like that 10 Cloverfield Lane is probably the address of the bunker, and I hope that if it is in the Cloverfield universe, that somehow or rather makes sense and tells us something about the events of that, and maybe expands upon that, because, there was a big mystery in the first place as to where exactly the monster came from and what was going on, and maybe some of that will be revealed in this, I'm wondering, and I'm hoping that the word Cloverfield being in there will be a big tell for what in the world all that meant in the first place. And I hope it's not completely unrelated, because then we're just selling this unrelated movie on the name of this of this other movie. It's also really interesting, again, since it's not found footage, that it's going to appeal to a whole different group of people that weren't interested in Cloverfield in the first place because it was a found footage movie and because it was a monster movie. There's two entirely different kinds of movies, unless of course we end up meeting the monster again in this, but I kind of doubt that we will, but who knows? I guess we'll see. Anyway, that's all I have to say about it right now. I'm definitely going to go see it and review it, and I gotta say I'm kind of excited to see what happens with it. Anyway, everybody, thanks as always for watching. Sure appreciate it, and this concludes today's Captain's Log.